Most RAG pipelines are about 4 lines of code. You embed your documents, you embed the query, you pull the top matches, and you stuff them into the prompt. Now that works fine, but it also forgets everything the second that turn ends. What you're watching here is a different animal. The agent recognized a problem it had seen before, took a correction, and replaced a stale fact with a new one, all in a single transaction. The part to pay attention to isn't the chatbot reply. It's that the system updated what it knows safely and durably in one transaction inside the same database that stores everything else it knows. Now, over the next 10 minutes, I'll show you how it works, what's in the repo, and how to run the whole thing on your own laptop. Most memory systems fail because they treat memory as a retrieval problem, when it's really a governance problem. Chat history is chronological. Memory is selective, structured, and governed. Those are completely different things. RAG retrieves, and a memory system continues across turns, across sessions, and across users. There are 5 things you add around a normal retrieval pipeline to make that jump. You type your memory, you scope every record to a tenant, a user, and an agent. You put a promotion gate in front of anything durable. You reassemble the prompt every turn, and you instrument the loop with traces. Those 5 things turn a stateless lookup into a stateful loop. The demo implements all 5, and I'm going to walk you through each one with the code right in front of you. This is the whole system on one slide. One memory manager runs the entire loop. Every retrieval is a single query, and every write goes through the gate. Now, underneath that, 5 type tables, all in one engine. The embeddings happen inside the database, right next to the row they belong to, so there's no separate vector service and no network hop. 2 surfaces share that core. There's app.py, which is the command line loop you actually talk to as part of the demo. And there's a notebook that opens up the internals so you can watch the queries and the gate decisions fire one at a time. All of it runs against Oracle AI Database Free in a Docker container. Setup is 5 commands. We'll install the requirements, build the schema, load the embeddings model, seed some data, and then we run the app. And that's the whole thing. So why type memory at all? Because each type has a different access pattern, and that's the entire reason to separate them. Policy is exact match by key. If you run a similarity search against a refund threshold, you'll drift towards something that's close to the rule instead of what the rule actually is. And that's the worst failure mode in this whole space, and it's why policy never goes near the vector index. Preferences are a keyed lookup, and they feed the static part of the prompt, which keeps it cache-friendly. Facts are the interesting one. They carry scope, an embedding, a content hash, provenance, and a status. Retrieval is hybrid because some questions are a lookup and some are conceptual. Episodes are compressed summaries of work that already happened. What the task was, what got tried, what worked, searched over that summary text so that we have the information we need. And trace is the flight recorder. It's append only, queried by the run ID only for replay, but it's never the recall layer. The seed script gives you a working tenant right out of the box. Acme support, a user named Jane, a few facts about our infrastructure, and 3 past support episodes. That's what we'll be talking to in a few minutes. Now, there are 2 retrieval paths here, and they do completely different jobs. Stable context is the immutable stuff, policies and preferences that apply on every single turn. Dynamic context is what gets discovered at runtime, the facts and episodes that are ranked against whatever the user just said. Stable context feeds the top of the prompt. It's the same every turn, so it's cache-friendly and there's no top K. Dynamic context feeds the tail. That part is hybrid, lexical and vector, fused and ranked with the weights you see on screen. One thing that is really important is that the scope filter runs before ranking on that dynamic side. If you filter after, the embedding neighborhood has already been shaped by data the user was never supposed to see. So you want stable at the top of the prompt and dynamic at the bottom. That split is the foundation of context engineering for all of these systems. Now watch this run in the notebook. All 5 reads happen in one statement. Policies, preferences, ranked facts, ranked episodes, and recent trace events. One query plan, one transaction, and most importantly, one security model. Now picture the alternative for a second. Postgres for the relational rows, a separate vector store like OpenSearch for the embeddings, an object bucket for traces. Now every retrieval is a join across 3 systems with 3 different security models. Putting it all in one database makes that problem disappear. And it also degrades gracefully. In production, things break. The embedder goes offline, the text index is rebuilding, whatever happens. So the retrieval cascades. Hybrid first, then vector only, then lexical only, then a plain substring match. Each tier writes its mode into the trace, so a degraded read shows up as a logged event instead of a failure the user actually sees. Section 9 in the notebook shows that cascade firing. Now this is the most consequential piece in the entire system. Promote everything and the store poisons itself with whatever the model happened to say last turn. Promote nothing and the agent feels like it has amnesia. The gate is where you draw that line. It does 3 things, all in one transaction. It classifies and scopes the candidate. It dedupes against the content hash and the scope tuple. And it verifies per type. If something contradicts what's already there, it routes to the supersession path instead of writing a competing row. Now here's the part I really want you to see. Status gets computed inside the manager. It is never accepted from the caller. Tenant facts and policies land provisional. Agent scoped writes, preferences, and episodes, those can land active. And that's deliberate. The moment you let the public API accept a status field, someone eventually passes active from a spot you didn't anticipate. And now you've got model-generated guesses ranked right next to your verified rules. Let's run the real loop. I'll go slow so you can read the tags as they scroll by. Turn 1. I tell it I prefer terse answers. So watch the sequence. Trace records the message. Retrieve runs that one unified query across all 5 tables in a single round trip. Assemble layers the prompt in order. Extract pulls out a preference candidate, and promote lands it through the gate as a verbosity equals terse. Turn 2 is the good one. I tell it our webhook URL just changed. Now, the seed already has the old URL sitting under the same subject and predicate. So the extractor picks up the new value, the gate sees the contradiction, and the manager runs a supersession. The old row gets marked superseded with a pointer to the new one. Both writes commit together. Retrieval never sees both at once. That atomicity is the whole reason this lives in one engine. Doing supersession across 2 separate databases is a coordination problem with no clear answer. Now, if I simulate a restart, the durable memory is still there. The agent picks up right where it left off. One more state worth understanding. Provisional is real. It's not decoration. The row is durable, it's written to disk, but it's invisible to semantic retrieval until something promotes it. The CLI has a /confirm command that flips it to active. Now in a real system, that signal could be a thumbs up from the user, a second independent observation, an admin review, whatever fits your case. The point is that that flip is always an explicit operation. The model never gets to write itself into authority. So what most teams call adding memory is really this: moving from a stateless API call to a stateful loop with a governed memory layer sitting underneath it. The models are shared. They're getting commoditized fast. But the memory layer reflects choices only your team could have made, and that's exactly why no one else can copy it. Clone the repo, talk to the agent in the CLI, then open the notebook and watch the same queries fire one at a time. That's the fastest path from understanding the design to having a working prototype on your own laptop. Thanks for watching.